There are more than just ghosts in the catacombs of floor 5, and they are much scarier than what terrorizes Kirito in the floor 5 boss room. But has the fateful encounter between Kirito and Pooh been changed? Are key characters like Neza removed from the movie altogether? Welcome everyone, it's me Gamerturk, your best source of Sword Art Online information, and this is Sword Art Online Progressive Explained, featuring the second trailer for the Scherzo of Deep Night movie. If you're new to my Explained series, what I do here is essentially provide you all the key information from the source material light novels, and this Progressive Explained is brought to you by my Amazon and Book Depository affiliate links for Sword Art Online Progressive Volume 4 featuring Scherzo of Deep Night itself. Perfect chance to read it before the movie for the full enjoyment, but with that, let's cast away the sly foxes spreading misinformation and get on with Progressive Explained. As is the case with trailer explained videos, I will be talking about content that is yet to be animated, so if you don't want any spoilers, you may want to leave about now. To give you some time, I'll recommend another video of mine that will answer your questions on as to why we're jumping to floor 5 with the second progressive movie, so click on the icon on the top right to check that one out if you're interested. But if you're still here, that means you're in it for the spoilers, and we'll start with the big spoilers due to the potential magnitude of the very first cut of this trailer. We open up with the most controversial shot for the light novel fans right here. We see Asuna with a small knife held up at her face. Perceptive fans have indeed noticed that the knife is the exact same one as Pooh holds in his first personal meeting with Kirito at the very end of the book. And as we can see, unlike the light novel, the knife itself is not held to the back, and well, it certainly ain't Kirito in the shot, is he? This naturally has a lot of light novel people worried that one of the biggest retroactive teasers of the series, that being Pooh mentioning how he failed to kill Kirito on floor 5 for the first time in War of Underworld, is being replaced with a similar event featuring Asuna instead, because Asuna is portrayed as the protagonist in the progressive movies. However, I see no reason to believe such a thing will end up happening just yet. First off, the scene is way too iconic to just have its focal characters swapped out. And even though progressive movies are currently not a retcon to the anime/light novel canon, but a separate timeline for the time being, it absolutely makes no sense to make such a change after the tease also being included in the War of Underworld anime adaptation. People are waiting to see the Kirito vs Pooh moment. I doubt they'll change it in any way in the movie. Secondly, people are kinda jumping the gun here, the same with something else that we're gonna talk about in this trailer later down the line. The entire cause of the worry is the design of the knife matching the light novel one in the scene. However, the knife is never mentioned as a special or unique knife that would be unique to Pooh to begin with. All we know is that it feels heavy for Kirito to hold, but that is not exactly a unique property, is it? That just means it has a high strength requirement to carry properly. Kirito could similarly grab Morte's axe and it would also feel weighty just the same due to the strength requirement being higher than Kirito's swords. Heck, it's quite silly to assume the knife is very special because of its heaviness in the books, because that would imply Pooh is higher level than Kirito, the guy who works in the shadows, does not participate in raids or dungeons, as far as we know, has not participated in any actual PK yet, and has entered the game later than everyone else without prior beta info. All in all, the knife itself is not a special one, and it should not surprise anyone if any other Proto-Laughing Coffin member uses the same knife in the first place. So this right here could just be Morte, Joey, or any other Proto-Laughing Coffin member holding this knife here. The existence of the knife does not imply it is Pooh. And of course, last but not least, there are other explanations here. As I just said, it could simply be other Laughing Coffin members. The extensive catacomb scene is going to be there as we have seen it in other trailers. This could simply be just part of that, which is most likely the situation. Alternatively, this could be a nightmare on Asuna's side, as it's quite the source of stress and worry for Asuna that the PK gang is roaming amok. Especially in the catacombs, things get quite dark for Asuna, and as another option, the final scene with Kirito is quite the terrorizing one for him, and he is absolutely horrified by the idea that this could end up happening to Asuna. This scene right here may simply be that being visualized, Kirito thinking about Asuna falling into such a horrifying situation. I know it's been kind of a long explanation for a very short scene right here, but as I said, this has been quite the controversial showcase in the trailer for many light novel fans, and I needed to highlight that it does not imply anything that you should be afraid of for now. And of course, I don't think I need to say anything about the line read from Kirito here. It's setting up the stage and one of the two interconnected themes of this floor, the effects of which were first felt back on floor 2 and have not subsided since. And of course, underneath the hood, we see one of our fellow screeching dickheads, either Morte or his friend in the catacomb scene. Afterwards, we get a quick labyrinth rush with a less curvy and more edgy golem, which is part of the overall monster redesign efforts of the movie, matching Fuscus the Awakened Colossus' appearance in the later scenes. This may be the scene heading into the boss room towards the final act of the movie, considering we see both an ALS and a DKB member working together alongside Litten. Or at least that's what I had initially thought, but luckily I knew better before publishing this video. I contacted Sertoid from the SAO Wikia, who is kind of our Aincrad people specialist across previous anime adaptations, light novels, manga adaptations, etc., and immediately identified the two alongside Litten as members of Agil's Bro Squad. In his words, that's Lobaka with the axe and beard bottom left, and Naijan with his stunted style hammer and his parted hair on the top right. Makes more sense than my theory, considering some other assumptions we had regarding the ALS and DKB members based on the lack of certain characters in the key visual, which we'll talk about at the end of this video. We get a shot of a massive Fuscus fist being tanked by two heroic individuals. Those are Litten and Shibata that I have talked about a bit more extensively in the previous trailer explained video, so I won't be redundant in this one. The entire shot is absolutely gorgeous though, especially the way the animation and effects, including that single black and white impact frame, they convey the weight of the punch so well. And the good news is, we don't seem to be getting a CGI Fuscus. That hand is fully hand-drawn to the animation. But I still can see certain aspects of him during certain phases of the boss battle to end up being CG. Wouldn't be surprising with the amount of stuff that will be on the screen. It's a multi-phase fight, it's gonna be a good one, just trust me. We see a quick shot of Mito in her tattered cloak, with her talking about how she still cannot forgive herself, most likely talking about abandoning Asuna. I won't even entertain other ideas as things stand, as there's no reason for me to, like anything relating to her becoming a PKer. And I also saw some people being frustrated at how long she'll maintain this guilt, you know, abandoning Asuna. Remember that Kirito regrets abandoning a total stranger he just met because he feared his actions may endanger him and his friends even 4 years after the event, without counting the 2 years he still consciously remembers from Underworld. There's nothing more natural for Mito to still suffer from abandoning her best friend to the clutches of death that transpired because of her mistakes just 3 weeks after the event. Of course she still can't forgive herself. What did you expect? It's a traumatic event, potentially causing the death of the friend you swore to protect. Last thing that happened to someone in the series, the person suffering from it put himself into a 6-month-long coma, got forcefully woken up and found himself in a nightmare where he eventually sought to crush his own heart so he wouldn't wake up again. I'd say Mito is handling things just fine, having a little bit of a regret 3 weeks after. Following right after that, we get a glimpse of Asuna launching a linear, and many people are assuming Mito and Asuna are fighting here, and here I am thinking they are either not fighting at all, or people are just outright running headcanon without utilizing any logic thanks to the lacking context for now. I say this again and again everywhere I talk, you know, much like Aria trailers being edited in a way to make you believe Mito would die, which I called out in the very first trailer she appeared and that she wouldn't die. Scherzo trailers are edited in a way to make you think Mito will be an antagonist. First the tattered cloak, making her look like the PK gang, now making it look like Asuna is fighting her. No, can you just imagine a person who just wants to protect her best friend and then wants to clear the game so others won't die after thinking her best friend is dead because of her, becoming a full-blown murderer within 10 days. All PK members are just broken in the head. You don't become a PK gang member here. You're either mentally ill, like they are, which eventually evolves into Laughing Coffin, a completely different breed than your average orange guild, I should say. Or you simply don't, because you don't belong into the depths of an asylum, just maybe a regular prison, that could be it. And Mito is honestly neither. The best guess here is that this is a mock duel. It is a plotline that exists on this floor specifically. In fact, we saw Kirito activating first hit duel request in the previous trailer. You may want to check the explained on that, which is most certainly his mock duel attempt with Asuna to teach her PvP, a failed attempt at that. This is most likely a follow-up on that, where Mito convinces Asuna to have that PvP experience or something and initiates a mock duel, if even that to begin with. And of course, tying that with Asuna's line here about her no longer being a beginner who needs someone's protection, honestly, I feel like this is what may bring up the mock duel with Mito. It is once again a common theme of progressive light novels that Asuna feels bad about being protected by Kirito, so yes, there's a huge chance that she may say this to Kirito specifically at some point, and that is a thing in the series. Their agreement with Kirito is that Kirito will stay besides Asuna until she can truly stand on her own, but as I said, I feel like it is Mito and Asuna who reach a breaking point where Asuna snaps at Mito with this one right here, and it leads to a scene where Mito goes somewhere along the lines of "prove it," which initiates the mock duel between the two, you know, prove it that you no longer need my protection, something like that. That's it really. It is quite the typical trope in such cases that it baffles me so many people are running with the PKer theory instead without any reason whatsoever. Like, sure mate, would be a character suicide for Mito, but it may as well be true in the end that she became a maniac PKer. But you're making that assumption based on what now? Because her cloak is tattered? Asuna was wearing a tattered cloak plenty of times. That's not really an identifier of a PKer. Copper wasn't even wearing a cloak. Heck, Pooh doesn't wear a cloak. He wears a poncho. It's fine making assumptions, but if the assumption has zero internal consistency, then it will be ridiculed. Yes, because we simply don't know at the moment, and unlike other scenarios, we literally have no evidence to make such wild assumptions. That's it, really. A tattered cloak doesn't make you a PKer. We'll take down the boss alone. Pretty simple line, just grabbing 2 full parties for the boss raid, the main conflict of this floor. Not gonna go deeper into it, especially considering they just overlaid that line over a completely generic Kirito action shot that doesn't even have a background. We get a cool little Accel moment, but it is Argo who steals the entire show, and this scene it is indeed straight from the light novels. Quite the critical scene in fact, where the majority of the party is left in sheer panic, unable to find a key component of the boss raid, and only in the final moment does Nessa finally pinpoint the location of it. Kirito is no longer in a position to reach it, so Argo comes in with the clutch with her agility. A beautifully described moment in the light novels coming to life with beautiful animation in this very scene. And of course, having name dropped Nessa right there, let's come to the elephant in the room, shall we? The key visual and the lack of Nessa on it. For those of you who don't know, Nessa is first introduced on floor 2, progressive Rondo of Fragile Blade, and uses a unique weapon since then, which is absolutely vital in the battle against Fuscus the Awakened Colossus. In fact, the trailers have already shown those weak points to us in 2 different scenes. One is the red dot that appears on the forehead upon the initial spawn with Kirito on the screen, and the other is why Argo is flying almost at the level of the ceiling. The key visual, however, has quite the squad featured, but no Nessa on the poster. We also haven't seen him in the short trailers we received so far, which led to a lot of people thinking he won't be in the movie. This is further reinforced by the fact that a huge voice cast was announced for Scherzo with no Nessa on the board. Personally, I still think Nessa will be in the movie. I can see 2 members of the raid team, Okotan and Hafner, being removed entirely in favor of Mito and Yamata, who are the 2 prominent additions on the poster, which we expect to be in the boss raid instead. But without Nessa being there, the party is down to 11 people. It obviously doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things whether the party is 11 or 12 people, but it does kinda matter that Nessa plays the most crucial role in the entire group, more so than Kirito, Asuna and Argo. And again, we have seen his task in clear display in the trailers. But why isn't he credited with a voice actor in the website then? that is probably simpler than what you imagine. We're literally only credited people we were shown already. All this cast list bar 2 people was fully credited in Aria Starless Night movie already. The only additions to the list are Litten and Morte, who have extended scenes in Scherzo movie beyond the boss fight itself and are much more recurring characters than someone like Neza. On top of that, they are also people we have already seen in trailers, unlike Neza. All in all, I genuinely think Neza will still be there in the movie. It would take less effort to remove the boss mechanic altogether than it is to remove him from the story, and the boss mechanic is right there fully on display with other characters having to take care of it with unsuitable weapons. I don't think they'll make things harder for themselves by keeping the mechanic in the movie but removing the only person who can reasonably engage with it. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say regarding the new short trailer and the key visual. A lot of people mentioned it's reminiscent of the ordinal scale poster with Kirito and Asuna places swapped. A lot of people are pointing out Mito and Argo's silhouette shows the very vital boss drop that is the reason for the short-handed rushed raid attempt. Both are likely true to some extent, I just don't have anything concrete to say about it. Could be intentional, could be a coincidence. What shouldn't be a coincidence is that you made it this far, thank you, so let me know that you did it by commenting Argo the Flying Rat down below. If you have questions you want answers to, use hashtag AskGamerturk and I will be making specific videos to answer your questions. If you enjoyed this explained, do leave a like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for future SAO explained content, follow me on Facebook and Twitter for the fastest news possible. A huge thanks to all my patrons and channel members as always, and until next time, stay cool.